There's a lot of drama happening with the Las Vegas Raiders right now, especially after the recent press conference by Antonio Pierce. He hinted that some players made business decisions during the game, and now the team might have to make some tough choices too. Things are really chaotic for the Raiders after they lost a game they should have easily won. Honestly, there's no reason why the Raiders shouldn't have beaten the Carolina Panthers, but here we are, and things are blowing up. Everyone is talking about Antonio Pierce's comments. Maybe he spoke out of frustration after a tough loss, especially considering all the effort the team put into preparing for the week. But when Pierce talks about business decisions on the field, it could mean many things. Remember last year? Marcus Peters wasn't playing as physically as the team wanted, and the Raiders released him the following Monday. So, maybe there's a player who could be let go soon. Or perhaps even a coach. I'll share my thoughts on the game shortly, but there's already some buzz from Raiders reporters, like Ryan Sakamoto, who suggests the Raiders might replace Trayvon Mullen with Isaiah Polamau this week as a business decision. Sakamoto believes Mullen has been missing tackles in open spaces, giving too much cushion in zone coverage, and not taking the right angles during plays. Now, that's just one person's opinion, and I don't fully agree with him. I haven't felt that Mullen has been all that bad, though. Yes, he's missed some tackles. Other players like Jack Jones have struggled with tackling too. He's been getting beat deep on plays, but we've seen these issues across the defense. Linebacker Robert Spillane also missed some tackles, like on that crucial fourth down play, which led to a first down. There's just been so many moments where the Raiders' defense didn't deliver, and while some are speculating it's because of Devante Adams, who many believe seems checked out, we can't be sure. His post-game interview definitely raised some eyebrows. He talked about how playing hard needs to be a part of a team's identity and not something you just switch on for game day. As a team, the Raiders haven't really established themselves on either side of the ball, offense or defense. In fact, no phase of the game, including special teams, has really been consistent, although special teams has probably been our most reliable unit over the last year or two. The key here is converting what you practice into performance on the field. It's not just about experience, it's about putting what you've learned into action. Some people think Devante Adams has checked out mentally, but I don't see that. He's been saying you have to stay positive. There's also been some talk about whether Adams was even on the field with Aiden O'Connell during the game. I rewatched the game, and yes, Adams was definitely out there running routes, even though O'Connell didn't throw him the ball. I don't think Adams is the one making business decisions during the game, and I don't believe he's getting traded either. The Raiders know how important Adams is to the team, and I think he's committed to sticking with them. As for Trayvon Mullen, while there's been some talk about him, I don't believe he's the player being targeted either. There are other players, though, who could possibly be the ones making those decisions. I plan to go back and review the game more closely to see who didn't play at key moments. We already know who the starters are on both offense and defense, but there's been some friction with players like Jackson P. Johnson and coach Antonio Pierce. Last week, Pierce said he had a conversation with Johnson, basically telling him the team needed him out there on the field. It sounded like Johnson wasn't fully motivated to play, but he did end up going in at different points during the game. So, I don't think Pierce was referring to him either. It's also possible Pierce was talking about Luke Getsy and the offensive scheme. Pierce's comments during the press conference suggested that the offensive game plan wasn't working. He mentioned that they had opportunities to run the ball, but couldn't make it happen. He said both offensively and defensively, they didn't do a good job up front, and the scheme and play designs just weren't good enough. What they thought would work didn't, and they didn't execute as they had in previous games. From what I gathered, Pierce seemed to be saying that they tried certain strategies, like running the ball, but it didn't work out. On several plays, it was 1st and 10, then quickly 2nd and 8, showing that they were struggling to make progress. These efforts just didn't pay off this time around. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch the press conference where Antonio Pierce spoke. At one point, he mentioned that the team had a chance. They saw something on defense and knew exactly how they wanted to respond when they got a certain look. But when that moment came, they didn't execute what they had planned. Pierce explained that the same defensive look didn't come back for another 15 plays or even 2 quarters later. In some cases, it didn't show up for the rest of the game. I find this really interesting because Pierce is essentially saying that they had a plan based on what they saw on film. They knew how they wanted to counter a specific defensive setup, but when the moment came, they didn't stick to the plan. Now, it's not clear if Pierce is talking about Luke Getsy's offense, but it seems likely. It could also be Patrick Graham's defense, though, but considering the defense played well in the first 2 weeks of the season, it seems less likely that Pierce is referring to Graham. So, To me, it feels like Pierce is pointing at Luke Getzey's offensive play calling. Some are even speculating that the business decision could be about Gardner Minshew. As you probably know, Minshew didn't play on the final drive of the game. Some are suggesting that maybe the decision was his, possibly blaming someone else for a mistake like a wrong route or missed assignment after throwing an interception. Maybe Minshew told the team he wasn't going back out because the game was over. It's possible that's who Pierce is referring to. There's still so much to figure out, and it's unfortunate because it's so early in the season for the Raiders. This drama feels unnecessary, especially when the focus should be on bouncing back after the loss to the Panthers and preparing for the Cleveland Browns. Instead, we have Pierce talking about a player making a business decision, and now the team is apparently going to respond by making its own business decision. It's frustrating not knowing which player this is all about. It could be the quarterback, the receiver, the safety, or even a backup defensive lineman. Hopefully, the Raiders figure things out and use this as a rallying point to improve for next week. At the end of the day, if a player isn't fully committed to the team's system, it's probably best to let him go. I know some people are saying that Pierce shouldn't be calling out his players, but I disagree. If a player doesn't want to be on the field and give it their all, then it's better for the team to move on. If Gardner Minshew didn't want to go out there on that final drive, then cut him, get rid of him. If it's someone else, a cornerback, a safety, or an offensive tackle, it doesn't matter. If they're not giving their all, there's no point in keeping them around. To win football games, the whole team has to come together. As the Raiders learned against the Panthers this week, and as the Ravens learned last week, anything can happen on any given Sunday. Anyone can win. I still believe the Raiders are an 8-11 win team, especially if they can pull it together on offense. They have the playmakers to get it done. They might not have the best structure or coaching right now, but the talent is there. Not many teams have more explosive players than the Raiders. Look at Brock Bowers, for example. He made a huge play right before halftime. Trey Tucker also had a 53-yard catch with just one touch. The Raiders have plenty of guys like that who can make game-changing plays. The coaching staff just needs to figure out how to make it all work. Hopefully, whatever issues the Raiders are dealing with, they can fix them soon. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comments below, give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll catch you guys next time with another video.